Hello, my name is Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we're looking at Warhammer Underworlds and we're looking to find out if you can distill a miniature tabletop game into a short and sweet battle royale. But most importantly, we investigate why Hexys may be the greatest invention that man has ever known. So let's see how this plays and whether this could be the next game for you. To set up a game of Warhammer Underworlds, you each need your own miniatures and associated cards. You'll then be placing objective tokens on these two boards here that can be in different orientations. You'll then each draw 3 mission or objective cards and 5 power cards, and then place your fighters in pre-designated spaces within your deployment board. The game is then played over 3 rounds of play, and each round you'll have 4 actions to take, adopting a you go, I go rotation. As a player's action, you can do many things, including moving. So the move characteristic is in the bottom left of your fighter's card, and you can move that many hexes. You can charge by moving one of your fighters up to their move characteristic and then making an attack at the end of their action. However, once they do that, that fighter can no longer take any actions throughout the remainder of the round. Which brings us to the attack action. So Amish Dawnguard now, at the end of her charge, has got 2 options because the first number here is the range of the attack, and 1 quite naturally means an adjacent target. And then next to that is the number of dice they'll roll, and also the symbol you'll need on these white dice to count that roll as a success. Once you've rolled and counted up your successes, we'll then need to refer to the defender's card. Amish rolled 1 success symbol on her dice, but when you've got allies supporting you, you increase the chances of you rolling successes. So here Amish has rolled 2 successes, and we then refer to the defender, the Chain Rasp's card, and the number of defense dice you roll, the black dice here, can be found next to the movement characteristic, and the symbol for success is also labelled here. Although the Chain Rasp did roll 1 success, it wasn't enough to beat Amish's, the attacker's 2 success rolls. So then you refer to the attack's damage amount at the end, and you place that many wounds on the target. You can also draw objective cards or power cards, or simply pass as an action. It's completely up to you. After every player takes an activation, there's also a chance for players to play power cards, and they might be interrupts or ways to benefit your fighters in the next round, but they can also be spells that you can cast as well. And this is what the blue dice are for. Some will require you to have a certain number of successes, and also certain characters have special spell attacks that generally have a longer range than melee attacks. So at the end of each round you get to score objectives. So here the Stormcast player is holding objective 1, so he's going to get 1 victory point. Other objectives make you deal damage to multiple enemies or defeat the enemy's leader, that sort of thing. So these victory points double as the means to win the game at the end, but also allow you to one-time use upgrade your characters. So some of these cards are specific to a certain character, and others are just going to give permanent buffs to your team. You'll have the opportunity then to discard any power or any objective cards you don't want and draw back up to a maximum of 5 and 3 respectively. You'll rinse and repeat that process until 3 rounds have completed, and then the winner is either the player with the most victory points or the player that has completely wiped the enemy's miniatures off the board. So that's how this game plays. What did I think of it? So what's so good about the game? Well, some positives will only appear from a certain perspective, and so are clouded by subjectivity. But I cannot help but sing the praises of the amount of game that you get from the time that you invest in it. Putting aside your need or want to paint the miniatures, once this game gets to the table, you're on a ride that has a satisfying beginning, middle and end. Despite each round following the same sequence, it almost perfectly pitches its game length, so you never once feel like the gameplay has long since outstayed its welcome. This is in many ways one of the key secondary tenets that makes you want to come back to a game. Getting this spot on is no mean feat, especially for a company that does not specialise in board games. Secondly, I want to talk about getting the basics right, from setup to deployment, to drawing objectives and special abilities, to movement, to attacking and defending, to jockeying for position, to building your warband's deck to tailor to your playstyle. Everything is well designed without ever becoming too complicated. The rounds flow smoothly, and the passing back and forth of actions, accompanying the frequency within which both players are involved, all add up to a highly immersive, engaging and replayable gameplay experience. Finally, I wanted to mention as a bit of a catch-all, but the product line and implementation of a new core set every year to refresh the rule set and provide a stable barrier to entry is pitched very well. Nothing feels overcosted. You'll of course want to get your paintbrush out to bring these stunning miniatures to life, but if you don't like the warbands in the starter sets, you can easily pick any of the number of other expansions available without breaking the bank. You couple this with an excellent deck building system that brings a great deal of strategy to tournament play, then you find yourself with a rounded out package that is well worth a punt. So what's not so good about the game? Well, firstly, the flip side of those product line positives are that sooner rather than later, you're going to feel obliged to dip your toes into some of those expansions to mix things up a bit. There's plenty of gameplay in each of the core sets, but there will come a time when the two warbands you have to play each time will become a little bit stale, and so as a standalone product, that needs to be factored into your decision about buying into this. And secondly, the main gameplay negative I have with Warhammer Underworlds is the sequencing of the power step after each action. It's in many ways counterintuitive. There would be absolutely no harm in having a power step at the start and end of an activation, as a lot of the cards will be for your benefit anyway. Yes, I fully appreciate that strictly speaking it makes no difference, but in this instance, a more streamlined turn sequence results in a more clunky real life experience. When all said and done, however, I was so pleasantly surprised by what Warhammer Underworlds brings to the table. Stunning minis, yes, but an equally elegant gameplay experience. This is a game meant in many ways to advertise its big brother sister Age of Sigmar, but what could that possibly matter if the game stands so well on its own 2 feet? So with all that being said, Dice vs Cards are going to give a final score of 8 out of 10. To a hybrid board game tabletop game that will satiate both board gamers and those of the tabletop variety. However, that's it from me. I'll see you next time. I hereby proclaim that Hexy shall henceforth be a requirement in all games. The age of the square is over. Long live the Hex!